Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about why everyone is so depressed, specifically in the developed world, so the United States, Western European countries, and East Asian countries such as Japan or Korea. Essentially, countries where life is relatively prosperous and survival is all but guaranteed. And survival is going to be an integral part of what I'm talking about because it is the ease of survival, I believe, that is contributing to this sort of collective depression that you see so rampant in developed countries. Now, the root of the problem really is a lack of purpose. And like I said, survival is integral in this because you don't see the same sort of depression levels in a lot of third world countries where they might be more expected. You might expect a country where survival, for example, is more of a day-to-day thing where you have barely enough money to provide your family with food or a roof over the head. You might think, well, why aren't they unhappy? How come the people in the developed countries are happier than those in the underdeveloped countries? And I think it comes down to a lack of purpose. Now, it's a lot more complicated than purely survival, but I think that's something that we have to factor into this. We have to factor in that survival fulfills a purpose and meaning in life. If you're a poor farmer, in Africa, for example, your job is to work hard and provide your family with food and a roof over their head. You don't have time to sort of experience existential crises of, why am I here? What is my meaning in life? You don't think about those things because you have to spend all your energy in preserving your and your family's life. You have to put all your energy into thinking how I'm going to be able to work harder, how am I going to be able to provide for them. And my analogy that I'd like to use is that the man running away from a lion doesn't have the time to be depressed. He's not thinking, oh, I'm so sad, I don't have meaning or purpose in life. He's thinking, how the hell am I going to get away from this lion chasing after me, wanting to catch me and eat me alive, rip me limb from limb? That's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about survival, not about these sort of existential crises that you see a lot of people in the Western world experiencing. And obviously it's more complex than that. We can't just say, okay, well, survival is guaranteed in the Western world. That's the main problem. Let's get rid of prosperity. Let's sort of pull a fight club and destroy modern society. No, that's clearly a fantasy. So it's a lot more complex than just purely survival, right? But there is something to consider in regards to evolutionary psychology. We as humans, especially considering for most of our history, and this is something I've brought up again and again throughout my videos, is that for 300,000 years of human history, we were hunter and gatherers. We were constantly moving. If you were a man, you were constantly hunting. You were constantly putting your life in danger, whether it was killing prey, chasing down prey, or even fighting off predators or other rival tribes. And as a woman, your job was to gather things, right? And that's a hard job back in the day. You have to know which plants may kill you, which plants are poisonous, which plants are good to eat, which plants are going to cause you to throw up, which plants are going to give you diarrhea. That's a very stressful job mentally as well. So both men and women constantly, every day, had to focus on survival. They had to think, okay, are we going to produce enough food for our families? Are we going to be able to build a structure that is going to help us survive the winter and the other forces of nature going on around them? These sort of things contribute to purpose and meaning. Our evolutionary psychology has given us this excess of energy to survive because it was incredibly necessary. Now you have the agricultural revolution taking place about 12,000 years ago. And then you start to see a more sedentary life. You go from nomadic peoples going where the game is best, following the hunt, following where the animals are going, following the places where they can hunt for food, and now they're able to live relatively sedentary lives. They're able to stay in one place, grow crops, raise livestock, right? But you still have this sort of physical relationship with work, which is something I've talked about a lot before. People need to put in their energy to survive. They're farming all day. They're thinking, okay, what's going to happen if there's a drought? What's going to happen if it doesn't rain? How am I going to produce enough crops to feed the village or to feed my family? You know, you're still experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety because you are focused on survival. It's not guaranteed. The crop yields, while more so guaranteed than, for example, the hunt, right? Going out for a day's hunt, it's definitely not guaranteed. So you're more stable than, for example, the nomadic hunter, but you're still not sure if you're going to be able to feed your family. You have to focus all of your energy into survival, into farming, into raising your livestock, and making sure that you're producing enough for your family or for the collective group. If you have a society where there are specific jobs where you have people dedicated to, for example, artisan work, you have people dedicated as builders, then in that case, the dedicated farmer has to provide for the collective group, and that's where division of labor falls into place. But the basic idea is that survival filled this purpose. It is only through prosperity that you start to see people seeking greater meaning. And this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing that, survival is easier, because once survival is easier, you get all these great advancements technologically. Because there's this thing that historian Carol Quigley, who was influenced heavily by Oswald Spengler, he basically said that to have a society that moves forward and advances, you need two things. You need your life to not be too easy nor too hard. There needs to be a balance, because if your life is too hard, you're never going to have time to invent things. You're going to be tired after a long day's work. You're going to go to sleep. You're going to wake up, same thing the next day. You need enough time in your life to be able to create technological advancements. But you also can't have too easy a life, because you're going to grow lazy. And, this sort of is going to factor into why I believe people are so depressed today. I think we've kind of gotten to that stage of laziness, and I'll explain why. But to sort of summarize what I'm talking about, it's this idea that as you grow more prosperous and you become less focused on survival, you have to seek other means of satisfying all this extra energy that we are given evolutionarily. Our evolutionary psychology gives us all this extra energy to survive. So when survival is more so guaranteed, or in the case of like a sedentary life of the farmers and the people that are able to stay in one city and grow crops, they have a little more time on their hands. So you start to see advancements in the sciences and the arts and in culture, which are all good things, right? But we see what happens as we today we go into a more industrialized society, and we see the nature of employment, for example, being completely separate from the physical. And that's sort of something I want to be talking about that I've talked about before. So when survival needs are met and we start to become prosperous, humans who have all these accesses to basic survival necessities begin to overindulge in said necessities to feel pleasure. So for example, if you think about food, this is the first thing we'll talk about, because there's really three fundamental things that are basic necessities. That's food, shelter, and sex. Food, obviously, to keep us well fed. Shelter, well, we need protection from our surroundings. And, by extension, I'm going to consider possessions in general a part of shelter when I'm talking about these things, right? So let's say shelter, possessions are kind of equivalent here. And then sex, because our primary drive as living organisms is to reproduce. We must have sex to produce children to carry on our bloodline. That is our fundamental goal. So those are the three necessities. So what happens is when survival is guaranteed and you start to have a prosperous society, well, you have more food. So instead of just trying to satisfy your hunger, you try to find very tasty food that sort of hacks into our brains and hacks into our different receptors, right? Certain foods that give us a pleasurable feeling that fill us with dopamine, right? And the same applies for possessions and shelter, right? People start to build bigger structures, bigger houses. And of course, there's a necessity for this. Obviously, you want great walls to protect your people from invading tribes or other civilizations. So there's a sort of real survival necessity for having great shelters. But this turns into from necessity, it turns into overindulgence. For example, people want these great big houses, where they can be nice and comfortable and they can kind of show other people how great they are, how prosperous and powerful they are. Look at my house. It's so much bigger than yours. So that's an overindulgence, right? And same with possessions. Possessions are good. You need tools to survive. You need a good spear to take down that boar, or a good axe to thrust into the lion's head and chop its head off, right? But then these sort of things, they turn into, for example, wearing really nice clothes, where you might have worn armor before to keep you safe. Now you just want nice clothes because they look nice, because they sort of appeal to authority. If you can afford nice clothes, then you must be an important person. And that's sort of an overindulgence of possession or shelter. And then, of course, sex, which is, very prevalent today. You think about the sort of hedonism that you see a lot of people have, this overindulgence in sex. Sex primarily is meant as a means of reproduction, and most animals have sex solely for reproduction. Now, humans, along with dolphins, certain primates, and I believe there's a few animals that aren't actually that intelligent that also have sex for pleasure, but for the most part, most animals do not have sex for pleasure. Humans do. So you start to have this overindulgence in sex. The survival necessity is to reproduce and further your bloodline, but this turns into, well, I'm going to have sex for pleasure. I'm going to wear a condom. I'm going to have sex without the prospect of reproduction, purely for sex, right? So you start to have people that eat more food, have more possessions, have bigger houses, and have more sex. And what originally is something that is difficult to attain, survival is difficult to attain in the state of nature. Food is difficult to acquire, shelter is difficult to acquire, and sex is difficult to acquire because so many people are dying all the time. Like having one sexual partner throughout your life in the wild is difficult. And if you can manage to have that, you're going to hold on to that. You're going to be like, well, I found a healthy man or a healthy woman, depending if you're a man or a woman. And once you found that healthy partner, you're going to hold on to them because you're not going to get another chance. Survival is brutal. So in the state of nature, these things are difficult to acquire. Food, shelter, possessions, sex. This is hard to acquire. So once you have these things more readily available and easy to access, people are going to overindulge in them because they are more easily accessible, and their brains don't realize that they now live in abundance economy. They now live in a society where prosperity and survival are guaranteed. So they start to overindulge these things. They start to eat more foods, even if they're unhealthy for them. They start to get fat. They start to have all these possessions and start to worship these possessions almost, right? And then people start to have more and more sex. And what happens is when these things are easily accessible and you don't really have to work hard to get them, our brains start to sort of grow numb to the pleasure, to the rush of dopamine that comes from these things. It's like people who watch porn, for example. You have the little porn graph, right, over 7 days. Well, it starts off as a huge spike in dopamine on that first day, and the second day a little bit higher, and then eventually it's a flat line. People grow numb to this rush of pleasure because it's easily accessible, because they don't have to work hard for it. Evolutionary psychology tells us that in the state of nature, these things are difficult to acquire, therefore we need extra energy to acquire them. We need to expend that energy acquiring them to feel satisfied in our brains. But what happens is, once we acquire these things without working hard, without having to sacrifice and struggle for them, our brains don't register that, okay, I'm getting this. They think, well, how come I have all this excess energy that hasn't been expended, right? So then you start to grow numb to these things for this reason. And I hope I explained that well. You can look more into the actual science. I'm kind of just talking about basic points when it comes to these things, right? So in regards to philosophy, I do want to get into specifically something I've also brought up before, which is Arthur Schopenhauer's will to life. Now, for those of you that don't know, Arthur Schopenhauer was heavily influenced by Eastern philosophies, specifically Buddhism, and the concept of samsara in Buddhism, which originates in Hinduism. The idea is that in the Buddhist faith, that we are constantly reincarnating. We are constantly going through a cycle of life, which is samsara. And in this cycle of life, it includes suffering, it includes worldly things. It includes things like, for example, you seek worldly desires, you seek physical feelings such as pleasure from sex, pleasure from food, pleasure from possessions and shelter. You're constantly seeking these things because that's how our brains are hardwired. You're constantly seeking more. You're never quite satisfied, right? And I explained why. It's the reason why you're never satisfied is because your brain is not used to acquiring these things easily. For hundreds of thousands of years, these things were difficult to acquire. So now that they're easy to acquire, our brains don't understand what's going on. Our brains were never made to accept that we have succeeded. Our brains are not meant to be content, because in the state of nature, you really never get the chance to be content. You're always on edge. You're always needing to fight an enemy or deal with a storm or catch more food. There's always something going on. There's always something your brain needs to be focused on. So our brains just can't be content. That's evolutionary psychology. We cannot be content. And this is sort of what gets illustrated through samsara. And Arthur Schopenhauer's Will to Life is very similar to this. It's essentially the idea that we will constantly desire more no matter how much we fulfill those desires. And I'm going to repeat something that I've said before, and I'm going to use a couple examples, one of which is for my gamers out there, when you first buy a new video game that you've been looking forward to for a long time, it's really fun for that first hour, or for that first day, or even that first week. But eventually, you sort of get used to it. You're like, this is a good game, right? This is a cool game. But, unless you're a true diehard fan, which, I kind of am for certain games, and I'm sure many of you are, you'll kind of get tired of that game, or that game just won't be as fun anymore, and you're kind of just playing it, right? Or within the game, you're seeking this new achievement, this new thing, and once you achieve that thing, once you get that achievement, once you beat that level, everything will be solved. Your life is going to be perfect after that. That's all you can think about. And what happens? Well, you get that achievement, and you're like, oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to get a new achievement, right? This isn't necessarily a bad thing when directed towards something productive. But when we think, more so in regards to these physical, worldly things that are related to basic survival necessities, but manifest themselves as overindulgences, let's look at possession and sex specifically, right? Or food even, right? So in terms of possession, let's say there's this brand new car you want to buy. You really want it. It's a beautiful car. If I can just buy this car, my whole life is going to be better. I'm gonna have this nice BMW. It's got 500 horsepower. It's got a 3.5 second 0 to 60, right? It's this little M2 competition or whatever. And you finally buy it, and for that first week you're cruising. You're getting all the good looks. People are looking at you in your fast car. You're beating people. As soon as it turns green, you're rushing ahead, gapping everybody, right? It's this great feeling of euphoria, but it doesn't last. It lasts maybe a week, and then what? Well, eventually, you go through your life, that desire for that brand new car has been fulfilled. You seek a new desire, whether it's a new car, or maybe now you want a promotion at work, or now you want a bigger car, right? You're constantly going to be seeking more. With sex, this is very true, right? A lot of times you hyper focus on this, like I have to have sex with this one person, or I need to date this one person. It's kind of like the Cinderella stories, right? Or like you look at Disney stories. It never talks about after the prince and the princess get together. It's just about them getting together. It's at that urge, that very, primal urge to reproduce with someone, to have sex with someone, to have a relationship with someone, and you're driven towards that. You think, if I have that, everything will be fine. This is going to solve everything. I'm not going to want anything after this, right? So finally, Cinderella gets with Prince Charming, and the movie ends. That's it. We don't see the rest of the movie. We don't see the rest of the story. Why? Because after Prince Charming and Cinderella get together, and fulfill that urge, that primal urge for them to basically have sex. They don't show that in the Disney films, but that's essentially what it is. Once they do it, once they finally have sex and that honeymoon phase goes away, well, what's left then, right? And that's not to say that you can't have a good, meaningful relationship. I think that's integral in life, but it's not that feeling that's going to make a relationship last. That feeling is fleeting. It will go away very quickly. It's like the brightest fire burns twice as fast, right? So that once that desire is fulfilled, that sort of lustful desire to have sex with that person, eventually you're going to want more, right? Whether it's sex with another person or just an interest in another part of your life, but you're constantly going to be wanting more. Either going to be wanting to have sex with another person, or you're going to want more from that person. You're going to want them to commit more to you. It's just this big fiasco if you follow your very human drives too heavily. That's why you have to sort of intervene there and say, okay, well, let's rationalize this, right? So that's a way that we see this sort of cycle, this will to life in with possessions, with sex, and of course with food. People overeat, People are never quite satisfied with a meal. You have a great meal and you feel great afterwards. You're like, oh, this is the best meal. I'm never going to eat again. I'm too freaking full. It's the day after Thanksgiving. What happens the day after? You got to eat again. And of course, there's a biological reason for this. I'm not going to overstate this particular thing, but it goes to show if food is not guaranteed, like in the wild, in the state of nature, we are not really meant to be full. we're not meant to be full because we never get enough food that we can feel full. So you're never going to have this problem in the state of nature of, oh, well, what do I do once my hunger is satisfied? You're constantly going to be seeking more food, right? So that's sort of the biological connection. But when food is guaranteed, when you can eat a lot of food and a lot of tasty food, you're not just going to eat more to satisfy your hunger. You're just going to eat more so you could feel that euphoria, so you could feel that dopamine. You're just going to have more sex to fill you with that euphoria, that surge of dopamine so you can orgasm or whatever. And same with possessions. You're just going to want more and more possessions. You're going to constantly be seeking more things. This is the will to life, as Schopenhauer puts it. And this is essentially the concept of samsara. And there are solutions to this. For example, Arthur Schopenhauer will say that you have to live the ascetic life. And what that is it's a denial of worldly pleasures. It's sort of living monk mode, right? You're not having sex. You're not really indulging in a lot of food. You're living a minimalist lifestyle. You don't have many clothes or a big house, right? That's his sort of answer. And this is kind of similar to, I'm not super familiar with the Buddhist doctrine, but to my knowledge, to achieve nirvana, you kind of have to do a similar thing, the ascetic life. If you look at a lot of Buddhist monks, they live very minimalist lifestyles. They're denying worldly pleasures so that they can have something greater in the afterlife. It's very similar to Christianity as well. The need for suffering. We have to sort of be Christ-like. We have to accept the sufferings of the world. This is a commonly recurring theme throughout all these different things, right? One perfect example for those of you that have seen the film Groundhog Day, essentially, and spoiler alert really quick before I go on, basically Groundhog Day is the story of a sort of, I would say, a materialistic man, sort of hedonistic, very, very pessimistic man. He's not living a very virtuous life. And what happens is he lives the same day over and over and over and over again, Groundhog Day specifically. And during the sort of beginning phase of this constant recurring life, he's living a very materialist, worldly life. He's indulging in pleasures. He's eating a lot of sort of tasty but unhealthy food. He's having sex with lots of different women. He's buying all these different things. He's buying a nice car. He's buying nice clothes. He goes to a Clint Eastwood movie dressed up as Clint Eastwood. Pretty funny, but he's living a very worldly life, a sort of materialistic life, a life of pleasure and overindulgence. And what happens is over time, he stops enjoying these things. He realizes the futility in this sort of life, and he says, okay, well, I'm not really enjoying this anymore. And he starts to get really depressed, and he starts killing himself over and over and over again in all these different ways until eventually he starts to seek something more meaningful. He starts to help people. He starts to learn how to play the piano, right? He gets really talented at all these different things. He gets really good at changing a tire. And he starts just helping all these people throughout town every single day. There's this homeless man who keeps dying every day. And Phil Collins is the name of the main character, and he's played by Bill Murray. He tries every day to save this old man, but the old man just keeps dying every day because it's his time to die. He's just old. But he does everything he can to help as many people as he can every single day. It doesn't matter. There's a kid that constantly falls from a tree every day, and Phil Collins is there to catch him every day. Saying every day a lot. But, he shifts his life from one of worldly pleasures and sort of materialism to one of helping others, something deeper, something more utilitarian or altruistic, right? And that's not to say that this is I'm not going to try to peddle this as a solution to everyone's lives or whatever, but it works for him. Eventually, he's had a shift in his character. He's become a good person, and once he's become a good person, once he's rejected the sort of physical world of pleasure, and it's a constant cycle of suffering, he eventually reaches nirvana, and the everyday recurring day finally stops, and the next day after Groundhog Day comes about. And this sort of represents achieving nirvana, achieving the end of that cycle. And you could call this heaven for Christians, or whatever. But it's essentially this idea that you can break the cycle by denying worldly pleasures. And this is a very simple solution to the problem. So I'm not peddling this as a solution for everybody, right? But I'm just simply trying to explain how the Buddhists sort of see this. And it's funny enough, the Dalai Lama, who is the religious head of the Buddhist faith, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, actually called Groundhog Day the most spiritual movie ever made. And I totally agree with it. It's a beautiful movie, regardless if you take on these sort of principles in your life. I can't pretend that I, completely do for the for sure. But it's definitely worthy to watch. A great film. I recommend it, and I think it illustrates this concept very well. Not only Schopenhauer's will to life, but obviously the Samsara and then Nirvana afterwards. So I'm going to shift the discussion here from that to more sort of more contemporary things that we can relate to. And of course, I'm going to bring up Fight Club. As you know, I'm a big fan of Fight Club. It's actually my favorite film along with Taxi Driver. But I think that Fight Club kind of illustrates this sort of depression, this collective depression that we all have quite well. And I'm actually going to pull up a quote from that in just a second, which from the film Fight Club, so that I can accurately sort of talk about this. Anyway, I slurred a little bit there. But so just again, spoiler alert, because I'm going to be talking about Fight Club. And if you haven't seen Fight Club, then, I'm sorry. But, you start off with the film or the book. I've read the book and I've watched the film. I actually think the film's better. But it starts off with the narrator, played by Edward Norton. And the narrator lives also a very materialistic life. He is sort of defined by his job. He has a sort of, I don't even know how to explain his jobs. It's akin to an insurance job. Totally not what it actually is, but let's just call it an insurance job. He lives a sort of perfect life in the materialistic sense, right? He lives in the sort of post-industrial society. He lives in a consumer driven society where everyone is sort of defined by their jobs, by their possessions. And you see many other quotes from Fight Club that sort of talk about this, but the narrator is a sort of, he's an upper middle class guy. He lives in a nice house. He buys all these different things, but he's miserable. He hates his job. He hates his life, and he can't sleep because of it. It's eating away at him. The modern sort of post-industrial society, this consumer hyper-capitalist society, is eating away at him because, like I said, we all desire a purpose, and trying to solve a spiritual problem with a material solution will never work. And there's a perfect quote from this. So essentially, the narrator eventually meets this guy named Tyler Durden, and Tyler Durden is the opposite of the narrator. While the narrator is a conformist and sort of goes with the flow, he does what he's told, he does his job. This man flouts society's expectations. He denies the sort of materialistic consumerist life. He's hyper masculine, everything that the narrator isn't. So for those of you that are familiar with Friedrich Nietzsche, he has this concept of the last man, and essentially the narrator is like the last man. It's somebody that is basically, he's enveloped by this comfortable lifestyle. He lives a comfortable lifestyle. He doesn't seek risk. He doesn't seek danger. He simply seeks to be comfortable and enjoy physical pleasures, right? And now, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people might consider Tyler Durden the Übermensch, but that would be a mischaracterization of the term Übermensch, and I'm sure I've used it wrong before because it's sort of a difficult concept to quite grasp. The Overman, the Übermensch, a free spirit, as talked about in Human All Too Human, is a better way to describe Tyler Durden. And what the free spirit is it's someone who denies these social expectations given onto them and sort of expected to follow, and they sort of create their own values, right? And this is sort of related to the Übermensch as well, but more accurate, Tyler Durden is a free spirit, and he represents the free spirit. And you start off the film with the narrator going to a men's testicular cancer support group for all these men that have testicular cancer, and many of them had their balls removed. So it's literally a manifest or illustration of emasculation of men. These men have literally been stripped of their manhood through this cancer. They don't have balls anymore. They're no longer men, really. And that's sort of a perfect analogy to modern society. In the post-industrial consumer society, it seeks to emasculate men by giving them an economic identity, by trying to fulfill their spiritual problem, their desire for a purpose, and the evolutionary drive to do more because we're given more energy. And it's trying to solve this huge problem with, like, here, take this pill. This pill is comfort and materialism. This pill is a job. This pill is an economic identity. But that pill is not going to do anything. It's just going to maybe numb you at best. That's all you can hope for with this pill. And another thing that comes to mind, I've been reading Ernst Jünger's The Worker recently, and Ernst Jünger sort of describes bourgeois society as one where the primary drive is to prolong life and maintain security, maintain comfort, maintain this sort of worldly relationship with life, right? Life, liberty, and property, right? You have the freedom to protect your property and your goods and your cozy little life. Just like the narrator, he has this nice little condo with all these nice little IKEA pieces of furniture, right? And bourgeois society to Ernst Jünger is one that sort of comes about in this post-industrial consumer society. It's one where instead of using all that extra evolutionary energy towards something greater, you're just accepting this comfortable, sort of meaningless life. You're living this economic life, one of economic identity, one of expression. And I've said this before. This is a quote that I created, and I say a lot. Expression goes from you used to be able to express yourself through creation, and now expression is done through consumption. Your identity comes from how you consume, which products you consume, whether you wear Gucci or Nike or Adidas, whatever, what clothes you wear, what products you consume, what phone you have. Do you have an Android or an iPhone? And also how you contribute to consumer society. What's your job? What do you do for a living, right? And there's another great quote from Fight Club as well that I'm going to bring up as well. But just to go back to the other quote I was going to say, so to sort of illustrate this Great Depression that I'm talking about, I'm going to use Tyler Durden's words from Fight Club. And, so you have all these emasculated men that don't feel satisfied with this economic identity. They don't feel satisfied with a life where they're defined by the material. They're not defined by any greater purpose or meaning. And so Tyler Durden starts Fight Club. And, even just from a physical level, you got to look at how something like fighting another man gets rid of that extra evolutionary energy. So Fight Club is essentially like actually I can't talk about it, but no, I'm just kidding. But Fight Club essentially is it's a club where men can fight each other, right? There's no weapons, there's no gloves. It's just pure brawling. It's one-on-one fight. And what that does is it sort of expends that evolutionary energy. There's this energy that we have to survive that has been given to us over the course of thousands of years during evolution for us to survive in the chaotic state of nature, to survive in this horrible, hostile world. And what Fight Club does is, because a modern consumer society doesn't give us a proper avenue to express that energy, because we're working in 9-to-5 jobs in little cubicles, we're living these perfect little lives. Survival is easy. You go to the grocery store and you get food. You come home to your warm little bed. You go to sleep. You wake up. You have your warm showers. Everything's easy and comfortable and nice. So this energy, this excess energy, isn't being expended. It's not being expressed. And Fight Club allows them an avenue to express that energy, to express that pure masculine drive towards violence, for example, because violence is necessary to survive in the state of nature. And that is exactly what Fight Club is providing them. It's an avenue to express that rage, which is that energy necessary to survive, which has been given to us over the course of history during our evolution. So Fight Club gives that. And this is a brilliant quote. During one of the meetings in Fight Club, Tyler Durden gives a little monologue. And he essentially tells all these people, he says, all these different men, getting ready to fight, he says, let me redo this. This deserves a perfect rendition. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. And that's such a brilliant quote, because it really encapsulates the struggle that the modern man, specifically the modern man, has. Because survival is no longer guaranteed, because survival is guaranteed and it's no longer the driving force. It no longer gives us purpose because survival is easy. Our purpose to survive, our purpose to run from the lion or stand and fight the lion and spear it through its heart, that purpose is gone. And when that purpose is taken away from us, we need to find something deeper and greater. We need to find a way to use that excess energy that the economic life is not getting rid of. We need to find an avenue to express that. And that is that great war, the spiritual war, to get rid of the Great Depression, which is our lives, which is all this energy that is being wasted and squandered. And he says this, he says, I see a whole generation squandered, a whole generation of potential squandered, right? So it's funny. This is, Fight Club's such a brilliant creation. And, you have to give Chuck Palahniuk, or however the hell you say his name, credit for writing the book, but the movie's a lot better in my opinion. Still a good book. But anyway, and another quote that I think illustrates this perfectly, and kind of illustrating how I say we do not want an economic identity. Our spiritual needs cannot be fulfilled through material. And obviously material and the spirit are related, right? So, a spiritual solution is still going to be rooted in the material and the manifestation of the spiritual. But the material in the sense of your job, these goods that you can consume, these nice little tables you can buy from IKEA, this nice little headphone, it's got this nice little color and it's comfy in your ears, right? These things aren't going to fulfill that spiritual problem, which is our excess energy that we need to expend, that we need to push out into the world. You think about why there's so much sporadic violence nowadays, why there's so many school shootings. It's because men don't have an avenue to release that violence, that natural will to survive. We need an avenue rather than this constant cycle that will never be stopped, right? If we think of like the Buddhist Nirvana, and I'm gonna create my, we need our own sort of nirvana. We need our own attainable nirvana, something similar to that, something that represents that. And you can call it nirvana too, right? Something that represents stopping that spoke of the wheel, stopping the revolving wheel, stopping the cycle, and saying no more. We're going to transcend that. So another quote from Fight Club is, "You're not your job. You're not how much money you have in the bank. You're not the car you drive. You're not the contents of your wallet. You're not your fucking khakis. You are the all-singing, all-dancing crap of the world," right? So, we as men reject this economic identity. We reject this material solution, even if subconsciously some men will pretend everything's okay. Inherently, any man with that real masculine drive is going to reject that. And there's going to be that Great Depression that comes from the fact that we all subconsciously reject that, and we want more. We strive for more. We need more lands to conquer. We'll never be satisfied with what we have, right? And it's like I said, the will to life and the samsara doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It just, all that energy that goes into these worldly pleasures need to be redirected towards something higher. I don't mean higher in a sort of cliche sense. You just need to be striving for something that sort of pushes you in history. You need to be a mover of history. You need to do something. You need to contribute somehow to this greater thing, which is the beautiful human experience. You can't just sit on your ass eating Cheetos, watching fucking TV all day. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You gotta fucking do something, right? Go and do go out on a fucking run or whatever. Go do some jujitsu, right? God damn, I gotta train. I haven't trained in a long time. So, I'm not pretending like I'm perfect either, but god damn, we got to do something, right? We got to fight this spiritual war. We got to end this Great Depression, so to speak. So, kind of what I'm saying, the economic man and the economic identity are something that we don't really want. If we don't admit it to ourselves, subconsciously we feel this. We don't want to express ourselves through consumption. We don't want our innovation to be tied to consumption. If you think about human innovation, human advancement, technologically, right, or even socially, a lot of advancement nowadays, and again, something I've talked about, is related to consumption. A lot of the richest people in the world, just look at the richest people in the world, aside from Elon Musk, all the richest people in the world have contributed and have made their money off of consumption. Off of that drive. They've hijacked that drive and they've benefited from it. See, while you can criticize a lot of things about Elon Musk, one thing I'll say about him is he is striving for something more. He wants to colonize Mars. He wants to send man out to space like you were taking a fucking Uber. He wants you to get on a spaceship and go to another planet like you were taking a goddamn Uber. Or a plane trip is probably more allegorically accurate. But that's a great goal. That's something that pushes humanity forward, that advances us truly towards like singularity, to a point of like technological advancement where we have transcended this physical plane of existence, right? But look at the other guys, Bernard Arnault. He's a fashion designer. He's produced fashion, and like fashion can be great. It can be an art, but it's completely commercialized in his case. He's made money from selling things that appeal to our unhealthy obsession with possession, right? It's our unhealthy obsession with wanting more physical things, wanting those nice clothes, those nice handbags. That's how Bernard Arnault made his money. He made his money by hijacking our brains and saying, this looks nice. Let me pay $1,000 for something that took $10 to make. It's ridiculous. Or you take, for example, even Jeff Bezos, and I'll give Amazon props. It's quite the innovative thing. But again, what has that accomplished? It has accomplished making consumption easier. Now we can buy things online. Now we don't even have to go to the goddamn store to buy a book. You get it on your Kindle, and I have a Kindle as well. Kindles are pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm guilty of it as well, right? Hey, I'm using the Kindle so I can fight the system. Right, but okay. Anyway, you get the point. It's so easy now, right? You can easily think of it like Kindle's not bad. That's a good thing. You can go get a Kindle and you can read all these books, make your mind smarter, or you can go buy this freaking thing. I bought that on Amazon and get stronger, right? But you can also use it to think like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to go out tonight. I'm going to DoorDash some food, and I do that too. It's terrible. I really shouldn't. But I do it sometimes. I get lazy. There's a lot of ways that this sort of easy means of consuming things can ruin our lives. We don't even have to go out of the house anymore to get all these things we need. That's the whole thing with Amazon. It gets delivered right to your freaking house. You don't have to go outside to get these things. It's so easy, right? It makes life easier and more comfortable. It makes consumption easier and more comfortable, and that's a horrible thing. So you think about the richest people in the world right now, those are the top 3 richest people. 2 out of 3 of those guys are related to consumption. What happened to human innovation for the sake of human innovation? Even in Elon Musk's case, the only reason he is a successful businessman is because he engaged with consumption. The only reason he is successful is because he made electric cars sexy. He found a way to make it attractive to the consumer. Like, oh, Teslas look cool. I want to own a Tesla. I want to be a rich asshole. I want to seem cool to everybody. I own a Tesla. I must be a real hoity-toity rich guy. And I'm talking shit. If you own a Tesla, good for you. Some people buy Teslas as a status symbol, right? But that's what he had to do to be a successful person. It wasn't SpaceX. It wasn't him sending us to Mars that made him the richest man in the world. It was appealing to consumption. So even the one guy who is contributing to human innovation, he's only the richest man in the world, and it constantly goes in between him and Arnault. He's only the richest man in the world because of consumption, because he appealed to consumption. So that goes to show you what the state of our world is right now. Art is tied to consumption. People don't create art for the sake of art. They create art to appeal to a wider audience, to make more money. That's all they give a shit about. When an artist goes mainstream, they sacrifice their voice, they sacrifice their soul, they sell their soul to the devil, which is like, I guess hyper-capitalism or consumerism or whatever. They sell their soul to make more money. And this is a terrible thing. This turns art into something that is all about material. Art should be about reflecting nature, and in the sort of Nietzschean sense as well, and a lot of other philosophers will say art should be a reflection of nature. Art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. It shouldn't be the other way around, which I feel is the case a lot of times. Art should be something greater, something almost metaphysical and spiritual, but now it's just almost purely tied to the material realm. And surprisingly, I actually feel like I've covered a lot of the stuff I wanted to cover within a decent time frame, because I'm pretty much wrapping up with the one I wanted to talk about for the most part. But just going through my notes right now, we lack purpose. We lack meaning. That is why we are depressed today, because we are trying to fulfill we're trying to fill a spiritual void with material, and that's not going to solve the issue. We need to find a way to replicate survival. And when you think of survival, it's suffering, right? Survival is suffering. It's overcoming pain and suffering to live, to survive. Excuse me. Without that simulation of suffering and pain, we are going to be depressed. We're going to be depressed if we can't find a way to put our energy into something more. So if I'm going to give you a very, macro scale solution to this, right? Or micro scale, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. If I'm going to give you a simple solution to this, it's that we have to redirect that energy towards something more. So for example, you put put that physical energy into working out, into doing a martial art. You have to get rid of that physical energy. It doesn't matter how hard you work mentally. You need to get rid of that physical energy to be happy. You need to be physically healthy, physically strong, physically fit. That's first and foremost. And then mentally, you need to strive towards a greater goal. And that could be related to the physical. That could be related to, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be a strong man. I want to be in bodybuilding competitions or powerlifting competitions. That's a way you can relate it to physically, right? But it can also be mentally. God damn my computer. It can be mentally as well, right? And this is like, I want to start a business. And, me personally, I like I said, I don't believe that you should start a business purely for consumption. I don't believe you should do it purely to make money. I believe that you should contribute somehow to human innovation. For example, with SpaceX and Elon Musk. So I'm not going to say, go create a social media company. That's kind of stupid, no offense. But if you can make that bag and you can redirect that towards something like SpaceX, kind of like, how Elon Musk started with PayPal, then good for you. Sure, start a consumer company so that eventually you can do the more important work. I get it, but we need to find a way to redirect that energy. So, entrepreneurship, for example, art. You can create things. You can create music. You can create, actual physical art. Computer programming, software engineering. That can be an art. Artificial intelligence, as scary as it is an art. Now we got to be careful with that, obviously. But creating these great programs that can sort of compute things that we cannot at faster speeds. That is an art, right? It's essentially striving for something more that is going to push humanity forward, either technologically or socially. Socially, with arts and inspiring people through sports, for example. There are many ways that we can attain something higher, something that sort of transcends the simple material samsara, that transcends the will to life, that transcends our physical drive to pleasure. We can't be the last man. We can't be satisfied with this existence. We have to create a society where even the people who would naturally be last men because they don't have a drive somehow are forced. Like, I don't mean that in like you can't tell people to work if they don't want to work. It's as simple as that. But if you create a society where we all are pushed organically towards growing to something more. Maybe somebody's not as ambitious as another, but for example, like when survival wasn't guaranteed, everyone had to work to survive. So even a naturally unambitious person still had to work hard to provide for his family and for himself, whatever, for herself. We need to find a way to simulate these sort of conditions so that even someone that isn't naturally ambitious and isn't naturally seeking to push themselves forward will find an avenue to express that energy. So for example, if you made physical education more important in grade school, you made everyone mandatorily need to perform martial arts or mandatorily needed to work out, right? Something like that, crazy as it may sound, then that excess energy is being pushed somewhere. But we need to find a way to solve this epidemic of depression, this epidemic of mental health. This is because we have no purpose. It's because our energy, that is a gift. It's a gift from God, if you want to think of it that way. It is a divine gift, this extra energy that we can be using to do so much more, that we can be pushing humanity forward towards the stars, literally. Towards the stars, literally, is what we could be doing. But instead, we're wasting it ordering DoorDash and getting fat and getting lazy and going on social media and wasting our lives. We have so much potential that is untapped, and we can use that. This depression can be a good thing because it doesn't have to be a depression. It's only a depression if you don't use that energy. But if we find a way to use that energy towards something greater, towards a higher purpose, then it could be a very beneficial thing. That drive, that darkness inside of us, that darkness can become light. Because darkness, and when you think about it, there is no darkness without light. Darkness is simply the absence of light in a way. Scientifically, that might not be true, but let's talk like in a sort of with aphorisms and stuff. Let's talk poetically. Without shadows only exist because of the light. You only see a shadow because of the existence of light. So, for example, this shadow right here on my arm only exists because of the light coming from my computer screen and from my place. That shadow only exists, that darkness only exists because of light. So are they really any different, right? Is there really a difference? It's just one thing. So that darkness that manifests itself like darkness, that aesthetically seems like darkness inside of us, can be a light. That negative can be a positive. There really is no difference between negative and positive. It's just, it's a big spectrum, and that spectrum condenses into something that pushes us towards more. And maybe I can't describe it with words. It's a Wittgenstein type beat, right? But there is something more that we could strive towards. And maybe it's futile. Maybe it's meaningless. Maybe life is meaningless. Maybe we are just Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill only for it to fall back down again. My favorite story, right? My favorite myth, shout out to Albert Camus. But maybe it all is just meaningless. But you know what is definitely meaningless, 100% meaningless, is constantly seeking more and more pleasure and being miserable and complaining. And, taking more, antidepressant pills to get rid of this so-called chemical imbalance. Yeah, I guess there is a chemical imbalance, right? But this chemical imbalance is influenced by your life. You influence that chemical imbalance, and only you can do something about it. Now, obviously, there's some people that genuinely need medicine. Like if someone's like severely schizophrenic or somebody's severely psychotic, like, okay, I'm not talking about those instances. There are clearly horrible mental health diseases, but the vast majority of people that are depressed today are depressed because of how they live their lives. They're depressed because of their lifestyles, because they're not living good lives, Now I just finished reading Yukio Mishima's Sun and Steel. He talks about like you have to go out into the sun. You have to get this. This is a gift. The sun is a gift from the gods as well, is a gift from God. I've been reading too much Norse mythology recently. It's a gift from God, and we have to use this gift. You need a certain level of sunlight every day. You need to absorb those nutrients right into your body. And steel, you need to work out. You need to get rid of that physical energy. There's almost only so much intellectualizing you could do. I'm gonna do a video on Sun and Steel soon, actually. Probably my next one. There is only so much you can do intellectually. There's only so much you can do with words. You need to have that lived experience. It's like Friedrich Nietzsche says in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Like, you need to have your life written in blood. You need to actually put in, like, that's when the material comes in. The material is important. There's a relationship between the material and the spiritual. Some people might even say there is no difference between the two. Like, it's like darkness and light. It can be one thing, but you need to do something in your life physically to get rid of that energy. And of course, you strive towards something greater mentally as well. And we need to do something. I know that the samsara, the will to life, this constant cycle is not it. It's not it, right? There needs to be something more. Even if we have to take the existentialist approach and create that meaning for ourselves or create that meaning for others and inspire others, we need to do something. We can't accept what we have now. We are destined for greater things. We men that are been cursed with modernity. Maybe it's not so much of a curse, and maybe it's actually a blessing to strive towards something greater. And maybe I sound like a schizo right now too. So who the hell knows? But yeah, if there's anything you get out of this, there is a Great Depression. There is a Great War, but most of it's in your mind, right? And once you conquer your mind, then you could start to help other people's. You help them conquer their minds, and we just have this chain reaction. We can all escape the matrix, so to speak, right? Anyway, so yeah, this one is actually under an hour, so that's good. I don't have anything else to say right now. I'm sure after I rewatch the video, I'm gonna be like, oh, why didn't I add more there? Why didn't I say more there? Just for context, if anyone's listened this long, I'm going to be going away for 3 months in just a couple of weeks now, but I'm going to have some videos pre-uploaded. I'm going to record 7 videos later this weekend in preparation for that, so I can upload videos while I'm gone. But I will be gone for a little bit. I'm just going to create some light videos, just sort of almost self-help videos. I hate self-help, like the term self-help, but I'm going to create some simple videos just to kind of improve your lives a little bit, some of that masculinity motivation type bullshit, and not so much this deep philosophy stuff. But anyway, if you listen this long, let me know. I always appreciate you taking the time to listen to my bullshit. I don't think it's bullshit, but a lot of people probably do. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. And as always, this is The Warrior Philosopher, building the foundations of the warrior philosophy. We'll see you next time. Peace.